Hello, I'm Matt from Ludovox.fr and today I'm going to give you an overview of Midnight Murder Mysteries 2nd edition. So this is a game for 1 to 5 players ages 14 and up, and it plays for around 75 minutes. In this game, you are aboard a luxury boat and a murder has occurred in the luxury suite and you need to solve it. You can play this game cooperatively or competitively. I'm going to explain the competitive version first and then move on to how to play cooperatively. So in this game you play as an investigator and you will move around the boat to interrogate suspects, but also to investigate areas, and you want to collect as much information to crack the case. So a few more things on a case. The murder always happens in the luxury suite in this location. The murderer will be the only person to lie and will act alone. Except if, of course, there is a suicide or an accident. In this case, well, no one lies. And then you play as an investigator and players are going to take turns playing their investigator. So, starting with the first player, what you're going to do on the first player's turn is reveal an event card. And the event card is going to move the cursor in a specific zone, and also it prevents things from happening or has things happen. In this case, it prevents people to get into the luxury suite for the remainder of the round. And then on my next turn, I will reveal a new event and so on. Then I may take my turn, and when taking a turn, a player has 3 action points they can spend. And they can also gain additional action points by spending boy tokens. So for 1 action point, I may move the cursor one zone. For 1 action point, I may move my pawn 1 zone. You may notice that we have different zones on certain levels, but we can move up the levels, and sometimes we have to move a certain way to get to specific places. For 1 action point, we can also buy back our boy tokens at the cost of 1 per 1. And then we can interrogate or investigate, and we can do so publicly or privately. Publicly if you spend only 1 action point, and privately if you spend 2 action points. Please note that if you investigate privately, you can reveal the information afterward and you will get 1 action point back. In this case, I'm going to investigate publicly, and I can either search a location or interrogate a suspect. And when I interrogate a suspect, I have 3 questions I can ask. I have to ask for an alibi, or about witnessing something, or the relationship to the victim, which is the motive. In this case, I'm going to ask Andy, which is in my location, their alibi. So I have to go to the entry that's listed, 226. I will go there. And 226 is, I was at the restaurant celebrating my 50th birthday with my family, such a joyous moment. So we'll go there, we have information, remember only the murderer is going to lie, and we may corroborate that by asking other people who were in the restaurant or searching the restaurant and so on and so forth. So we have to cross the clues that we can get. Additionally, for 2 action points, if you are in the same area as another player's pawn, you may extract information for them. So you get 1 info and you give them 1 boy to do so. So that's the basic gist of the game. Once your turn is over, you may move any suspect pawn 1 or 2 spaces. Then your turn is over, we move on to the next player, and so on and so forth until the end of the game. The game can end in 2 ways. Either the events roll out and the boat reaches port. In this case, all players are going to write 2 hypotheses and reveal their first and their second at the same time, and they can't change those. The other way is if someone thinks they have cracked the case before the boat reaches port. And in this case, you have to go to the theater and say, okay, I think I cracked the case. You finish the round, and then the player who said so is going to formulate their first hypothesis. Then all players will write their first and second hypotheses and will reveal their first afterwards. So there is kind of a play here because you get extra points if you are correct by going there first. And then you are going to counter points, and if you have the most points you win, the first hypothesis is worth more than the second one, and you have to bet on three things: how the murder has been committed, what is the motive, and who did it. And the player with the most points wins simply and purely. And that's it for the competitive mode of Midnight Murder Mysteries. So now, how do we play cooperatively? Well, if you play cooperatively, you each try to solve the case, but you try to do that together. And you cannot investigate publicly, you will only investigate privately. And the only hint you can give on whether this was a good or bad interrogation is a gesture. This was a good interrogation, a so-so interrogation, or a bad interrogation and investigation. So you try to communicate that with the others and try to get to the point where you think that altogether you can crack the case. You have some time to group info and also try to find out who did it, and then you try to have the better score. The game can also end in the cooperative mode if the boat reaches port. In this case, you have that time and you formulate hypotheses together. And that's it for Midnight Murder Mysteries 2nd edition. So this is a game in which you try to find the right information at the right time using this booklet and this ship. Now, bye bye, have a good cruise, and see you on Ludochrono.